ॐ नमः शिवायेति शिवं प्रपद्ये शिवप्रसीदेति शिवं प्रपद्ये शिवात् परन्नेति शिवं प्रपद्ये शिवोऽहमस्मीति शिवं प्रपद्ये दुर्लभं त्रयमेवैतत् देवानुग्ररहेतुकं मनुष्यत्वं मुमुक्षुत्वं महापुरुषसंश्रयः. This is the verse from Viveka Chudamani where Acharya says there are three things that are very, very rare. Durlabham trayamevaitat devanugrahe hetukam. Only if you have the blessings of Bhagavan, you will get any of these three, forget all three together. What are those three? Manushyatvam, this Manushya Janma, Mumukshutvam, an intense desire for liberation, and Mahapurusha Samshraya, the opportunity and the bhagyam to learn these supreme truths from an enlightened master. Now, all of us have got these three. That is the beauty of it. The very fact that we are in this satsang today definitely shows us that one, we have got that Manushya Janma, which is very rare. In Buddhist philosophy, there is a expression that is used, or rather an imagery that they use to show how rare the Manushya Janma is. Imagine that there is a tortoise just floating around the universe, a normal sized tortoise. And then there is a golden bangle which is also floating around the universe. What is the possibility of this bangle correctly going and fitting onto the head of the tortoise? The universe by itself is so large and constantly expanding, in that somewhere you have one tortoise and somewhere you have a golden bangle that's floating around. What is the possibility that this golden bangle correctly goes and sits on the head of the tortoise? That is how rare human Janma is, or Manushya Janma is. Our Puranas and Shastras say we take birth in almost 80 lakh different yonis. We take birth as 82 lakh or 85 lakh different organisms before we get this Manushya Janma. So this is something that is extremely valuable, because this is the only Janma where you are able to work towards liberation, towards moksha. And when we say moksha, very simply put, it is peace. That's why every Veda mantra when we chant, we end by saying Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. It is ultimately that peace that all of us are looking for in everything that we do, a sense of fulfillment, a sense of complete cessation of sorrow. And that is the promise of Vedanta. Atyantika dukkha nivritti paramananda praptischa. Complete cessation of all your problems and attainment of ultimate bliss. And to attain this, there is one very fundamental thing that we need to understand. And this logic is so profoundly simple that once you hear it, you will wonder how you were so wrong about this your entire life. In Vedanta, we say the very first qualification is Viveka, the ability to discriminate between what is eternal and non eternal. So the Shastras ask us a very, very simple question. You want happiness, correct? What kind of happiness do you want? You want everlasting happiness, or in other words, you want to be happy always. There is nobody who has ever gone to a temple and said, Bhagavan, from many days I'm very happy, so for variety, for a few days, let me experience some sorrow. Nobody has gone and prayed to Bhagavan like this. So, one, we want to be happy, and two, we want to be happy always. So, logically speaking, we have to find a permanent source of happiness. If we want to be happy permanently, we have to find a permanent source of happiness. But when we look at our own lives, every place, everything that we are looking to get happiness from, all of those are impermanent. The people in our life, the objects in our life, every single one of these are impermanent. So, how is it possible, even theoretically, how can it be possible that an impermanent object gives you permanent joy? And second thing, first of all, this object is impermanent, which means it can get destroyed at any time, it can leave you at any time. Because of your karma, maybe you're separated from this person who you are very affectionate towards. So then, how will you be happy? And the second problem is you cannot rely on anything to make you happy always. Let's say the person that you're extremely fond of, there is no guarantee that this person will always be a source of happiness to you. It is something we see every day that the person that you love the most sometimes is the cause for a lot of your sorrow. Maybe they change, their behavior towards you changes, or they leave you and go. Because of this, you undergo misery, or something else happens where both of you are helpless and you're separated, and because of that, you become unhappy. It's the same with husband and wife, parents and children, whatever the relationship might be. Wherever there is a lot of attachment, we see that unfortunately life has this very ruthless way of separating you from that particular person. If you're able to live with that person and live happily ever after, nothing like it. But every day we see people around us, and every day we see that is not the case. So, what the Shastras teach us is you have to hold on to a permanent object if you want permanent happiness. You have to hold on to a permanent entity if you want permanent happiness. And that is what is referred to as mumukshutvam, this desire for permanent peace, this desire for permanent happiness. When that desire is expressed in the way of jnanam, we call it mumukshutvam. When that same desire is expressed in the form of devotion, we call it bhakti. The intense desire to know one's own real nature is called mumukshutvam, and the intense desire for God is called bhakti. Ultimately, the two are not same. To know yourself is to know God. To know your real nature is to know God. Or to know God is to know your real nature. And to realize this truth, what do you need? Mahapurusha samshraya. You have got Manushyatva. A lot of people get Manushya Janma, but they end up living like animals. They are born, they eat, they sleep, they work, they get married, have children, and they die. This even animals do. There is nothing special about this. All living beings do this. Eating, sleeping, procreation, propagation of the species, and death. Every single animal does this. So, from Manushyatva, you have to get Mumukshutva. That is, you have to get an intense desire for liberation or an intense desire to get to know God and find true meaning and true purpose in life. And after you get this, because this is a path that we have no prior information about, we have no idea how to go on this path. If you say you want to work in a multinational company, there's a path that people will suggest. People will say, okay, do well in your school, get into this particular kind of college, then do this degree, then you will get into that company. Like that, to achieve any goal, there has to be a path. And a person who has walked on that path is the only one who can guide you. That's why Mahapurusha Samshraya is very important. Without the right kind of guidance, whether it is in your worldly life or whether it's in your spiritual life, it is very, very difficult to make any kind of progress. And we are all very lucky that we have got this Manushya Janma, we have got this Mumukshutvam, some desire. For some people, it might not be very intense. For some people, it might be extremely intense. But at some degree, all of us have got this desire for deeper meaning in life, to get to know answers to the bigger questions in life, to get to know God, to get to know ourselves. And we have been blessed to have come in contact with the teachings of a Mahapurusha like Jagadguru Adi Shankaracharya. So, with the blessings of Bhagavan Parameshwara and Jagadguru Adi Shankaracharya, we are going to be enjoying this satsanga on Shivananda Lahari, the waves of auspicious bliss. It is of the nature of Ananda. The Shvetashvatara Upanishad throws an open challenge and says, Yada charmavadakasham veshtayishyanti manavaha tada devam avijnaya dukkhasyanto bhavishyati. Which means the day humans are able to fold up space like a piece of leather, then we can accept that there is another way to attain complete cessation from sorrow. There is another way to attain fulfillment. But until then, the Upanishad says, Devam avijnaya, without knowing Bhagavan, without knowing the supreme truth, it is impossible to go beyond sorrow. It is impossible to attain complete joy and bliss in life. So, in order to get to know that Bhagavan and in order to attain that bliss in life, Acharya takes us through the very scenic route of bhakti. Generally, we say there are four margas: Jnana Marga, Bhakti Marga, Karma Marga, and Yoga Marga, or the path of Raja Yoga. And in that, what is the speciality of bhakti? When we see each marga, Jnana Marga is the path of knowledge. So, there might not be a lot of people who have a very natural inclination towards knowledge. If you see our own worldly lives, before we came to spirituality, there are very few people, of course, we're not denying that there are people, but there are very few people who have a natural inclination towards knowledge, towards the accumulation of more and more knowledge. If given some free time, we would rather watch a movie than listen to a podcast and educate ourselves, or watch a documentary and educate ourselves. Then, if you see the path of karma, it is about doing all your duties as an offering to God. And there are some people who have this nature of working and serving. Again, those are less. Most people are always trying to figure out how can I reduce my workload. Then you have the Yoga Marga, which is all about discipline and meditation. And most people struggle with discipline and meditation. But what is the path of bhakti? It is about love, it is about affection. And we see that regardless of anything in the world, there is one thing we can be very sure of. It is the fact that we get immense joy by giving and receiving love. It is the expression of love and affection which gives meaning to our life. And second, the path of bhakti also does something very, very significant. It takes our existing desires and it turns it towards Bhagavan. So, in all other paths, what do? We fight against desires. Desires are natural to us, but we realize that it is these desires that are robbing us out of our happiness. But even after realizing that, we are not able to get rid of our desires. So, what do? We take the path of bhakti, where, in the words of Swami Vivekananda, we take all the desires that are in the world and we convert that into a very powerful beam of desire for God. This is the secret of bhakti, where you're not going against the tide. Let's say you have a very powerful and a very fast sports car. In all other paths, people will say, why do you have this sports car? Get rid of it. Don't fall into all these attachments. But we are not able to do that tyaga. We are not able to renounce that car. So what Bhakti Mata says very sweetly, she says, okay, my child, you keep the car, no worries. For now, you keep the car with you. But instead of using the car to go to a movie or to a restaurant or to a party, use that car to come to satsanga. So the same object which was pushing you into the world, the same desire that was pushing you into the world, has now become a path to liberation. And that is the beauty of the Bhakti Marga. And Acharya, in this Grantha called Shivananda Lahari, takes us to Bhagavan, shows us the true nature of Bhagavan through the path of Bhakti. We'll continue this in the next satsanga. Shiva Shiva.